You want to buy land? Follow the Getchell way. I'm going to teach you the Getchell way on how to acquire land. This will be good. All right. So we're going to start with this book right here. Through a Howling Wilderness, Benedict Arnold's March to Quebec in 1775. What does this have to do with buying land? You got to hang in there, dude. You need patience here. I know YouTube and TikTok and Instagoo and all that, but you have to have patience. For 3 days now, rain had been falling on the expedition, adding to their discomfort and misery. October 21st, the third day of heavy rain, brought with it an ominous increase in wind as the men of Greene's division finally got moving again. As nightfall approached, they made camp and tried to get as warm and comfortable as the conditions would allow. John Henry, the teenage rifleman who had been part of the scouting party, would remember the unusual events that followed. The rain had added significant volume to the river so that the water was running a few feet higher than normal. And to be safe, the men encamped on a bank 8 or 9 feet high. As it turned out, 8 or 9 feet was not high enough. Towards the morning, we were awakened by the water that flowed in upon us from the river. A few miles downstream from the rifleman, Colonel Arnold, Benedict Arnold, our hero, had stopped traveling late and in the darkness could only make a basic camp. It was 11 o'clock before those in his party could dry their clothes and turn in for the night, finally resting comfortably under their blankets. 5 hours later, the water woke them up as well, rushing on us like a torrent. To reach them, the river had risen 8 vertical feet in as many hours, and it reached their campsite before any of them had time to gather their belongings. You hear that? It reached their campsite before any of them had time to gather their belongings. Snatching their baggage from the rising water, the men were fortunate to discover a small hill nearby where they managed to retrieve supplies and equipment, but it took all the next day to get everything dry. This morning presented us a very disagreeable prospect, said Arnold. The water level had risen to such a height that it became nearly impossible to find the curving course of the river. And if they could have found it, the current racing downward towards them made it impossible to paddle, pull, or push the boats onward. The storm subsided around midnight, and the expedition spent the remainder of the evening cold, wet, and fretting over their losses. At the first light, they began to move again and quickly discovered that the dead river had come to life. Most of the army had been marching by land along the riverbank, and as they tried to resume their progress, they discovered the rain had displaced the river's banks as much as a mile inland while swelling all of its tributaries to an impassable degree. To move onward, the men in the bateau lay on the bow and grabbed at the bushes and trees, pulling the boat ahead hand over hand. Others waited alongside, holding the sides. Remember, it's in October, by the way, so it's freaking cold. This is in Maine. As one set of falls, the river's now driving current swamped and sank 5 or 6 boats. Losing the scant provisions and powder that these vessels held was hard on the expedition, but the loss was harder to bear because one of the barrels held hard currency. Gold and silver coins intended as pay for the men. No doubt the soldiers watching the heavily laden barrel sink below the rapids thought the loss was a great waste of money. What none of them could have known at the time, however, was that it would not go entirely to waste. As guides for the expedition, John and Nehemiah Getchell were among those who witnessed the sunken payroll. Living several days canoe paddle downstream on the Kennebec, they were familiar with the region. This put them in a position to profit from the expedition's loss, and 4 years later, these two woodsmen suddenly and quite remarkably became land barons. In 1779, the two brothers purchased 3 lots along the Kennebec, filing one deed for the 3 at the county courthouse. According to the deed, they came into ownership of the land. According to the deed, they came into ownership of the land, quote, in consideration for the sum of $4,000 of the present circulating currency of North America, and the further sum of 105 pounds and 5 shillings. The seller of the deed recorded the transaction with one additional note, not at all common in such records, perhaps leaving a clue about how 2 simple farmers from the edge of the Maine wilderness might have come upon such a sum. He described the form of payment as being in gold and silver coin to me, in hand, paid by John and Nehemiah Getchell, both of Vassalboro. So here we got the family of Samuel Getchell in Salisbury, Mass. So you got to keep this stuff, dude. You can't just rely on the internet. You got to have this in hard copy, man. Because it just, if you just rely, you got to have the books. All right, so we're going to scroll on down here. And this is dated 1909, by the way. All right, we actually, I'm not going to be able to find it. We got something on my own family, the Deichman clan. Maybe I'll share it with you guys one time. It's actually really interesting. So we're going to go down here. We're going to make this a little bit bigger. And we're going to look for Nehemiah first. There's Captain John. Captain John, that's John's Jr.'s dad right there. All right. So we're going to come down and look for Nehemiah, Joseph, Dennis, Nehemiah. Check this out. Captain Nehemiah Getchell was born in Berwick, Maine in 1744. He was one of the pioneer settlers of Vassalboro, Maine, going there in 1766. In 1767, he bought of his cousin Samuel land in Vassalboro. So he, basically, I don't know if you're familiar with Mennonites, but they help each other a lot, actually. And that's the way Jewish people do it, Muslim people do it, Christians used to do it, we don't do it anymore. We help each other out. It's the way it's supposed to be, as opposed to usury, frankly. And we need to go back to that. But anyway, so that's his cousin said, hey, I got some land, you can build a house. That's what he did. In 1788, though, he owned 350 acres there. In 1775, it was Benedict Arnold, our hero, chief guide up the Kennebec and as far as Canada. And his history of the expedition, Henry has much to say of him. And I'm not sure who, John Henry's probably who he's talking about. John Henry, the teenage rifleman. I bet that's it. He built the first dam across the Kennebec in Waterville in 1801. He married 3 times. First in June of 1768 to Annie, second to Hannah in 1701, and then to Miss Anne in later on, 1810. So I'm not sure if the wives died. I don't know if he's like a Trumpster. He's always got his eyes on hot chicks. I don't know how it works. I mean, I assume his wife's died because a lot of women died in pregnancy back then, and he had a lot of kids. Anyway, we're gonna come down to John Jr. right here. John Jr. was born in Scarborough, Maine, 1719. On 1742, he married Mary of Brunswick. He served in the colonial militia in 1751, being sergeant in his dad's company, and later in the Revolutionary War. On June 23rd, 1768, he bought the Kennebec proprietor's land on the east side of the Kennebec River, and is what now known as Sydney. He held many important officers, being the largest landowner there, and residing in what's still known as Getchell's Corner. Isn't that interesting? It says Vassalboro, Maine. Let's look that place up. So here you are. That's in Kennebec County. Is that what it is? Yeah, Kennebec County. So here's still kind of southern Maine. You might call that central Maine. That's basically still southern Maine, and there it is right there. It's only got 4,500 people. Oh, include the villages of Getchell's Corner. Isn't that interesting? On March 1770, Vassal, the town founder, conveyed to his niece Mary Prescott of Nova Scotia the proprietor's lots. All right, let's look down for Getchell here. We're gonna see any Getchell. I guess just that one time. Yeah, pretty interesting. Let's look up Getchell's Corner. Here's Getchell's Corner. Let's make it so we can see the satellite. All right, satellite's way up in the sky, Josh. Way up in the sky. Those satellites, way up there with the ISS. It's freaking so stupid. All right. Anyways, let's look at this right here. So can our guy go in there? Oh yeah, sweet. Look at that. Oh, it's so freaking gorgeous. Oh man, that's Getchell's Corner, Maine. I love Maine, dude. It's just so flipping cold. So cold. Let's go over here. Oh, dude. That just, man. That doesn't melt your heart. I don't think I can handle the cold, man. I'm telling you, I'm a big old baby when it comes to that. And then you got the Kennebec River. So the first dam on the Kennebec River was Nehemiah Getchell. So let's look at this. We're going to go to Directions, and we're going to put the Waterville, Maine. All right, let's take a look here. And there's Waterville. So where's the first? I bet that's the first dam right there. bet that's it. That's probably a bridge now. Yeah, Fort Howe, man, I tell you, dude. I bet that's it right there. I mean, it's obviously a bridge now, but man, if I could just get used to the cold, but maybe that's the dam right there. Maybe that's it. It just smells good up there. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. How cool is that, man? So that's how you get rich in real estate. You go on an expedition. The river, because remember, some clown said the Jews controlled the. Some guy from D.C. The Jews control the leather. So when Benjamin Netanyahu decides it to rain heavily in Maine or anywhere, just make sure your barrels of gold and silver when they get taken by the river. We got a lot of weird people out there, my friends, a lot of nuts, and it's just so freaking stupid. But anyway, you take the golden barrel, the gold and silver barrel of gold and silver coins gets lost in the river that's flooding. Just make sure you remember it's at. You go find those rivers, you go find it, and you can go buy yourself 355 acres as well. All right, love to hear your thoughts. And I'm going to try to get this guy to interview one time, if he will. Tom Desjardins. Oh, where did I find him from, by the way? I think it was on themainwire.com. This right here is stupid. Blows off historical state of the tribes, tributes, and some of Maine's indigenous peoples. They should. I mean, don't you know what they're saying? So that means now we're all obligated, or else they're going to hit us. But all right. So anyway, I think Desjardins is in here. Commentary, support, news about contributors right here. Let's see. So the Maine Wire. Steve Robinson, Patton, Nick Murray, right there. Tom Desjardins. Yeah, this guy. So he earned a PhD in Histoire from the University of Maine, and has written several books on Maine history. He's taught at 5 colleges, been featured in. Okay, yeah, this guy crushes, man. I don't agree with that at all. Tax cuts increase government revenues always. I don't know how you could say that. Anyway, so big fan. Maine is leading by imaginary example on climate. So I definitely want to. The truth about, right here. The truth about Nira Shah, their version of the CDC, their version of Fauci that the Maine media never told you. Yeah, I got to read that. Clean energy is a dirty, dirty business, 100%. Anyway, so we'll see if I can get this guy on a live stream. That'll be a lot of fun. All right, love to hear your thoughts. See you.